Alright, so just got back from seeing Godzilla today, and I haven't been in a movie theater with such a nerdgasm like that since probably Pacific Rim last year. Seriously, this I very much enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed this fucking movie. It was great. If you are obviously a fan of Godzilla, you're going to fucking like this movie a lot. If you're not a fan of Godzilla and you're going into this because someone, I don't know, like dragged you into it or something like that, you're gonna enjoy it, you do get your money's worth, you do. There was a point where I thought I was just gonna get disappointed, but I'll get into that when I get into spoilers, but, a lot, just to sum up this one, it is way better than the 1998 one, and, it becomes one of those, oh, that movie didn't exist. Just like when The Incredible Hulk came out, and Ang Lee's Hulk, it's just oh, that never existed, It's one of those things where we're just canceling out why does my neck look like that? Alright, that looks better. We're just canceling out that old one. That one doesn't exist, But yeah, there was such a huge nerdgasm in the theater, and it was great. That's why I love these, sci-fi monster movie robot shit, Well, there was no robots in this one. No. That'd been great, though. This was fun. I enjoyed it, Black Guy was with me and being loud and Black Guy as usual in the theater, so it was great. I saw an IMAX 3D as you're supposed to, and yeah, that was lots of fun. Oh my god, lots of fun. Bryan Cranston. In all seriousness, I probably wouldn't have jumped at the opportunity of seeing this. Just been alright, I'm in, whether it's good or not, if Bryan Cranston wasn't in it, but he did really well. I like Kick-Ass, I like his, the kid Aaron Taylor Johnson, I do like him, but I think if the movie was just him, and maybe Bryan Cranston is just a side dude, you know what I mean? If Bryan Cranston wasn't in it, to kind of start off the movie, I most likely wouldn't have kind of cared, because, I'm just gonna call him Kick-Ass. When Kick-Ass character, it's the whole, him, and, oh, funny enough, it's not really a spoiler, because obviously, he's in it, and his, wife in it is Elizabeth Olsen. So it's kind of funny, because when she showed up, I had leaned over to Paul and said, that's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I was ew, because they were kissing. I was oh, you're kissing your sister. This is not Game of Thrones. What the hell are you doing? But yeah. Because of them, it would have just been for me oh, young love story, and then there's monsters, and I just been god damn it. But it was more than just that. So yeah. Before I go into spoilers, just definitely go see Godzilla, because it was tons of fun. Go see it with your friends, shout, cheer in the theater, do whatever, because everyone did. Yeah, it was definitely well worth it. This isn't really a spoiler, before I go into spoilers, but if you go see in, IMAX, whenever IMAX starts, they always have, the blue thing where it counts down, it's 1097, like that, but, it's to pretty much for you to get prepared on how, the 3D and the IMAX is. So it's you see the numbers and they're counting down and yada yada. And that happens every time you go see IMAX 3D. And it's usually one of those alright, sweet, so the movie's gonna start, your eyes are adjusting to the weirdness, yada yada. But this time, I kind of thought at first that there was a bit of a, an error kind of thing. Because when it was counting down, the screen was kind of the image was kind of doing this, but it was enough that it seemed bless me. It was enough that seemed they were trying to, adjust it, well, since we're doing the countdown, might as well adjust it correctly, so during the movie, people, there's not, that kind of, when I went to go see Captain America, if you look further out, with the slight fuzz, excuse me, kind of thing, so yeah, but it started getting more and more, erratic, but, and as it's doing like there's always like a song like do 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 do, like it's always like something silly and cheerful. 3, 2, 1, do do do, all that stuff. But it started getting more and more erratic, and it was like just moving, and you're like, what the hell? And like towards the end, when it was like 3, 2, 1, when you get to that, you start hearing like boom, boom, like the Jurassic Park like thing. You're like, oh shit, And then, like, right when it hit 1, it was going down, it, like, shook a lot, and you hear the sound, and it went to black, and I kind of had a moment of, wait, did they just, and of course, it had to be, like, the biggest nerd guy in the theater, you just hear, yeah, like that, and the whole audience erupts and applauded. I was sitting there, like, I did one of these, like, that, okay, yeah, it was awesome, and then the movie starts, and you're just, like, in it, you're like, oh my god. Anyway, I'm gonna go into spoilers. So, you find out that, okay, so the movie starts off with Bryan Cranston and his family, in Japan, and they're doing research for things and stuff, and so then a big, like, nuclear explosion, like, shit, meltdown, shit goes real. The wife dies, he's left pretty much as crazy guy, like, oh, there's these things that are happening, and no one wants to listen to me, and there's things happening, and, he's left to that. Mind you, this all happened in, like, I think they said 1999. Switching back, 1999, that happens also in the Philippines. Ken Watanabe's character, they're, like, inside, I'm just gonna call it a kaiju, fuck it. They go inside this big kaiju, and they see, like, there's some, like, polyps or something, like, whatever cancer cells, like, they end up getting. One of them has hatched, and there's another that's kind of like, it hasn't, yada yada. So they're like, holy shit, blah blah blah. Switch back to today, 15 years later, which is weird to think that 1999 was 15 years later, because my brain still thinks that 1995 was 5 years ago. So, cut to that, you find out that Kick-Ass is his kid. So, I was kind of like, I had a feeling that's what they were going to while I was in the movie, because with the trailer, all I kept thinking is, like, how are we linking Bryan Cranston's craziness to Aaron Taylor Johnson's, militariness? Because it seemed like two separate stories. It seemed like, Bryan Cranston's like, this is gonna kill us! Blah! And Aaron Taylor Johnson's like, I have a mission to do. It's like, is it this thing happening, and you're seeing two different perspectives, like the crazy scientist, and then, like, the guy who just has to follow orders. But then when you find out that that's his kid, and yada yada, and he has to, like, go to Japan and, like, pretty much bail him out, all that shit, you're like, okay, I get it, and yada yada. And you kind of understand why he kind of got into, like, the army and all that stuff. So anyway, they're talking about yada yada, and it's not just Godzilla that's in the movie. There's the little weird, Mutos, M-U-T-O, or T-A, whatever, the things. The Cloverfield monsters, I'm gonna call it the Cloverfield monsters, because it looks like it, because it's all like, this, like, it does, like, it walks like this, and it's like, there's two of them. There's the male one, and it flies, and it's like, to scale, it's like about, let's say, this big. Then there's the female one, which is, that's a big bitch, as Paul kept saying. And then you have Godzilla, which is kind of like in the middle size. And they're just, everything's huge anyway. But just like, that bitch was big, though. So anyway, you see the male first, that gets hatched, that gets hatched in Japan. Sorry, my brain. That gets hatched in Japan. And then, so yeah, that happens, yada yada. Long story short, Bryan Cranston ends up dying, which was kind of sad, but I understand, like, that, in a sense, it needed to happen, like, he finally got his closure, like, all these years, no one would believe me, but now, like, finally people are believing him, shit's going real, like, he got his closure, and I understand. Again, I'm very glad Bryan Cranston actually played that character, because you know, again, if I would have just seen him with just Malcolm in the Middle, to see him, like, just do this movie, I wouldn't have believed it. Mostly after all the years of, like, Breaking Bad, I'm like, yeah, he's not just the silly dad with... I'm surprised he didn't have a scene with him just in his underpants in this movie, just thinking about it. But, Kick-Ass, boards on a plane? Yeah, boards on a helicopter thingy to Hawaii to then catch, like, the next flight, back to San Francisco, where him and his, sister, where him and Scarlet Witch, are, and they have a kid, and yada yada. And, of course, like, you knew he wasn't gonna make it. It's not gonna be like that, because that's the, sorry, TV. That's the whole point, is that it's just not gonna be that fucking smooth of a thing. And I was kind of annoyed. There was a kid, when I was watching it, I called him Short Round. And they're, like, on, like, a monorail thing. Sorry. They're on a monorail. And the Asian kid just, like, is inside the, like, he's inside the monorail, and the parents are outside of it. It's like, oh no, we can't stop the, you know, thing, and the door's closed, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, oh, come on, man. You saw your kid there, like, better. That's when you kind of go into the whole, come on, better parenting. At the same time, like, shit happens, and, you know, and they were, like, a little, like, Japanese family, yada yada. So, to cut to the chase on that one, I'm glad that that kid, one doesn't end up dying, and two gets reunited with his family very quickly. Because I would have been really fucking annoyed if, like, the rest of the movie he would get into, like, he could have been easily saved, or he wouldn't have broken his leg if he didn't have to save the kid, like, that kind of shit. Like, where, like, that's his constant thing, where, like, things would be solved a lot faster. If he didn't have this fucking kid, he had to make sure he wasn't gonna die, you know? Yeah, so when they're on the monorail, the power goes off, then the Cloverfield monster comes out, and everyone's like, holy shit! You know, by then, Godzilla, awesomeness, is starting to show up. And here's the awesome thing. Ken Watanabe does the dramatic removal of the glasses, like the my god man. Can't see a thing, everything's really fuzzy, you know? And Paul said that his sole purpose in the movie was to say Godzilla's name. Like, of course, you have to, like, I probably wouldn't have been okay if, like, it was just, like, required that it had to be the Japanese actor, you know, there had to be the Japanese character, Japanese actor, who, like, dramatically, like, on the screen says it. It's like, we caught him, Gojira. And he had to say it in the most Japanese way he can say it. Like, full-on accent. Just put on so much accent when you say Gojira, you know, like that, you know, and he had to, of course, point at it on the fuzzy screen from, like, the 1950s nuclear bomb videos, like, Gojira, you know, like that. Like, he had to, it had to be. Like, it wouldn't have worked any other way. Anyway, so, Cloverfield monster shows up, all hell breaks loose, yada yada. Things get a bit better, and the kid gets reunited with his parents. Was getting annoyed because he was gonna start, like, filling out paperwork, like, okay, this kid, I found him kind of thing, and then he runs off. We're like, really, kid? And that's when you think it's gonna be one of those. We're like, oh god, like, that kid's gonna probably get run over by a truck. But then you quickly see that he gets reunited with his parents, and you're kind of like, okay, good. End of that one. Let's actually move on with the actual story. So, shit goes real. The naval ships are following Godzilla, which I love that Godzilla doesn't give a fuck. So you see him all Nessie-like with his, you know, his Stegosaurus back, just sticking out of the water, and then there's, like, naval aircraft carriers just following him, and there's submarines just following his ass, like, where's he going? We're gonna go. And I love that they don't treat him as a threat. You know, couple of times they kind of were like, shit, he's gonna attack us, so they start shooting at him. But they're just like, we're gonna follow him to see where he's going, but he's gonna help us. Like, they've realized we're gonna need Godzilla to beat the Cloverfield monster, which is funny because I remember when Cloverfield came out, I actually thought, I was like, Godzilla could kick this guy's ass. But, you know, there you go. But yeah, it was a while before you really, really saw Godzilla. Like, again, you saw his back, and there was, there's one part where you finally see his foot come down, and the audience is like, woo! You know, like, and then there's one part you see his little derpy hands. I got all giddy, because he's just like, derpy hands, I got derpy hands, you know? You see his little derpy hands. And it's kind of like, they were kind of cock-teasing it for a while in the movie, like, you fully see him, like, obviously, once it's, like, around the second act, because he doesn't really, obviously, like, doesn't really show up till the second act. But towards the end of the second act, you see him, he does the roar, everyone's like, yeah, motherfucker! And for a while, it was kind of annoying, because every time he would, like, take down the male or the female, like, just kind of like, bitch slap you, it would kind of, like, pull a Jerry Springer thing, where, like, oh, someone's fighting, let's take a shot of the audience, you know? But, yeah. Whatchamacallit, they kind of did that, and I was getting kind of annoyed. I was like, come on, I want to see some fighting, I want to see some fucking fight. I want to see some kaiju kicking ass action, you know? I was just like, come on, kick some ass and bitches and shit. But it would be like, freaking Scarlet Witch would, like, run away, and then, like, as you see him, like, take him down, like, the door will close, and you're like, fuck, come on, man, show me, do the fucking shit, you know? So yeah, they're thinking of, so they find out that nuclear energy is obviously what powers the Cloverfield monster, you know? So they, in a way, they kind of want to nuke it, which kind of doesn't make any goddamn sense to nuke something that is powered by nuclear energy. And if I could just plug my goddamn camera in. And then you find out, like, the female one was trapped in, what's that called? Vegas. Trapped in Vegas. Oh god, this cord. Yeah, so the female one was not trapped in Vegas, but, like, in the thingy, let's just say that. And so, yeah, so she's in Vegas. She was like, let me just, you know, get on some, like, craps table and all that shit. So the female, I was about to say in Jersey. Dear God, I'm tired. So she's in Vegas, and so they meet up, and so they have this nuclear warhead that they want to, like, but it's like an old, like, analog one, because they also send up, like, not EMF, the EMP kind of thing. So they have to have, like, an old analog nuclear warhead, blah, 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 all that stuff. There's one part where you see, like, the boy and girl Cloverfield monster, and they have, like, the little nuclear warhead, and they kind of like, oh, kiss it, oh, you can have it. And you see the big bitch, and her egg sac is glowing, and I made a joke about how I think my eggs probably glow. I don't know. But yeah, there's one part where it was, like in San Francisco, like, the Chinatown, and I like that they did that on purpose. Like, you see, like, the little, like, you know, paper lanterns all over the place, and then you see, like, Godzilla show up, and he's like, fuck, motherfucker! I think that was actually a good touch. I like that they did that. Yeah, so, freaking, this was just awesome. It was just like, there's one part where, okay, Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch is the character, she's a nurse, doctor person. The hospital gets evacuated. She puts her son on, like, this little, like, short bus, and then, she decides to stay behind, blah, 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 of course. So, the guy driving the bus, like, they're on the Golden Gate Bridge, and we were looking at it, we're like, yeah, put them on the Golden Gate Bridge, because that bridge in movies doesn't get blown up. And Paul goes, man, Magneto took it down. I was like, yeah, there you go. You know, I'm glad at least this didn't take place in New York, because just, again, one of the things I talk about a lot when it comes to movies, it's like, don't stop fucking with New York, I swear to God. While people are freaking out on the bridge and all that shit, the bus driver of the bus is like, fuck this shit, and he just guns it, like, oh, shit's going real, I'm just gonna go, and he just starts gunning it, which I love. I love that he had that fight or flight mentality, where it was either he was just gonna, like, stay there and just be like, we're all gonna die, but he just said, no, I'm gunning this thing past the barricades, just fuck, I don't care if it's the cops, or the fucking, you know, like, the military guys, like, all that stuff, any authority, I don't care. Like, I want to be safe. I want to make sure these fucking kids behind me are safe, too, so I'm gonna gun the fucking, you know, little short bus off the damn bridge, which I love that, like, at least, like, in the end, like, they make it, because he decided to say fuck it, you know, so at least there was that. Like, the worst it would have been if, like, he was gunning it, and then like, Godzilla's tail would have, like, would have, like, you know, slapped him off the bridge, you know, because that would have sucked. I'd have been like, ah, damn it, you know, but that was fine. Of course, the Golden Gate Bridge gets split in half, all that stuff. So, Godzilla shows up, and he's fucking awesome. And he feels like he's like he's like the protector of the Earth kind of thing. Because, Ken Watanabe was like, yeah, Godzilla is trying to fix this, actually. He's not a threat to us. So he had to, like, tell all the people, like, he's not a threat to us, he's here to fix everything. And, which kind of makes me think of my dad, because he's just kind of, like, there. And then when something happens, it's like, alright, the fuck? What do I have to do? You know? like a dad thing. Like, what? What? Your kid's on my lawn? Fuck off. Anyway. So, Godzilla shows up, and Ken Watanabe was like, no. We're gonna have to let Godzilla fight them. Like, we're just gonna have to let him deal with it. And you're kind of like, what? So... Oh, you get to see, like, all the fucking... Oh, she lays her egg sac, the Lady Cloverfield, her egg sacs, and it's all wrapped around, like, the nuclear warhead. Oh, I'm doing this because it looked... Oh, there's one part where, like, there's a lot of white stuff, and I was like, did that Cloverfield monster just come? Like, what the hell is that? And, of course, we're in the theater going, ow, 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 Shazam! Like, it's horrible. Kick-Ass decides to let a lot of, like, gasoline loose in, like, where all the eggs are. Shit gets blown the fuck up. Godzilla, like, charges up, because you're like, oh shit, Kick-Ass is gonna die, because he's like there, like, on, like a end of a column. He's just like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. And then like, because it's, like, dark because of the EMP and all that stuff. And then you start seeing, like, a blue glow, and I was like, no, this is not happening. Are they really going for it? And you see Godzilla, and he charges up with the blue, and then he atomic breaths some motherfucker! Dude, I have not screamed in the theater like that. I was like, ah! Like, I actually did that. I was like, ah! Because I was like... It was like, I couldn't believe that they were going for it, and at the same time, I was so excited that they were. It was kind of like in Pacific Rim, where they're like, oh fuck, we're fucked, and then, you know, Mako was like, we still got this! And it was like, I was like, sword! Like, she blurred out, sword! Wah! Sword! You know, so I was like, holy shit, and he's like, bah! Bitch! You know, taste the rainbow, my breath, fresh breath, you know? So that happens, and there's one part where, like, he fights the guy Cloverfield monster, and he just, like, uses his butt, he just, like, whips the bitch with his fucking tail, bitch gets hit against a building, and gets, like, impaled, and everyone in the theater was like, ooh. I'm like, that's what you get. Don't fuck with Godzilla, you know? He just likes to go and have a sandwich, and then be done with it, but now you're bothering him, so he's pissed, you know? And, so that happens, and finally, like, oh my god, when he was fighting the fucking, like, there's one part where I was like, I didn't think that Godzilla was gonna die, but I also had a feeling that he was gonna get very hurt, like that kind of thing. So, Godzilla faints at one point, and then fucking... You know, you're like, oh shit, you know, the Lady Cloverfield monster is, like, killing all the guys who are trying to get the warhead, like, to a boat and have it detonate in like, out in the ocean so it doesn't, you know, hurt anyone, yada yada. So then they're like, oh, we're fucked. Finally, Godzilla's like, alright, you know what? You know, fuck you, bitch. And he grabs the bitch. And I'm thinking it's gonna be like in King Kong, where he grabs, like, the dinosaur's mouth and just rips the jaw. And I was like, oh, he's just gonna rip the jaw, he's gonna rip it. And I'm, like, sitting there like this, like, ah! So he rips it, and just goes, bah! And just goes atomic breath into the motherfucker's mouth. And just the audience is just freaking out, like, yeah! Wah! Just, like, nerdgasm all over the place. It was amazing. It was awesome, you know? So, of course, fucker dies, yada yada. You know, the whole world is saved. Godzilla fucking, you know, passes out, and you think he's dead. Next day, you know, it's the daytime, you know, blah, blah, blah. Kick-Ass gets, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch get reunited, with their kid. Ken Watanabe is just, like, out and, like, with all the rubble with his scientist lady, like, holy fuck, shit got fucked. And then you see Godzilla just laying there. And, like, it was funny, because I had leaned over to Paul and I was like, you know what? It'd be funny if the movie ends, but it ends with, like, Godzilla opening his eyes. Just as I said that, you see Godzilla like, Sorry, I kind of passed out a bit, because, as Paul said, busted two nuts. And so he was just like, okay, let me get up. Sorry, it was just the part where he was fighting, when he fought the Lady Cloverfield, and Paul just went, "You wanna go night-night?" Like from Kevin Hart. He's like, "One man, one bullet." You wanna go night-night? Sorry, it's just, it's hilarious. I do it. So, yeah, Godzilla, like, gets up and is like, God, woo, Jesus Christ, I'm so sore, gets up and he just, like, he just walks out, he's just like, fucking bitches, fucking balls, he just does one last, like, fuck, like, roar, he's like, alright. And he just, like, walks in the water like, fuck this shit, man. I'm just gonna go in the water. I saved your asses. I'm gonna be here underwater in case, another portal opens up in the fucking, Pacific Ocean, because I'll be here. It just kind of goes away. And you're just like, thanks, Godzilla! You're kind of like, thanks, bro! You saved our lives! Although, economically, we're pretty fucked right now, because San Francisco's totally fucked! But thanks, man! Alright. I have no home now, But, yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun watching that movie. It was definitely a lot of fun. I was annoyed at first because it's like, come on, show Godzilla, fucking show Godzilla, fucking show Godzilla. Kind of like with Pacific Rim, it's like, yeah, they kind of like, you were there. Like, the moment the movie starts, it's like, yeah, there you go. Here's the monsters, here's the robots, they're fighting. And this whole movie's about that. Yeah, there's people, yeah, there's a bit of a love story, but there you go, the end. Here's some backstory, and then here you go, more monsters and robots fighting. And then here's this other thing, but robots and monsters are fighting, But here, it's like, there was a build-up, and the payoff did work. Like, at first you're like, oh, come on, get to it, guys. But when it got to it, you're like, yeah! Fuck yeah, bitches! It was awesome. His atomic breath shit, that was, oh my god, it was so exciting. Yeah. Anyway, so, there was actually a lot of trailers that played. Usually when I go see IMAX, this time I went to go see it in Manhattan, and you had to pay the $43 for 2 tickets kind of shit. The real IMAX, as I call it. And usually with that, it's like, you rarely get any trailers, and if there is, it's like 3 or something, at most. This time there were a few. They played another trailer for Interstellar. This time there was more information to it than there was the last few times I saw it. It's coming out in November, so yeah. Apparently, Matthew McConaughey, is a whatever person. Engineer, my brain just started out. It's an engineer, and has to be sent off into space. It's called Interstellar because they want to do, like, in a sense, Event Horizon kind of space travel, where you travel far places really quickly and all that stuff. And now looking at it, it looks more interesting. It looks like it's pretty much one of those. It seems like the world is coming to an end and they have to find life somewhere else. Like, fine, it makes kind of sense. It's still very vague on what else there is to it besides just, survival of people kind of movie thingy. So, it looks more interesting than before. It's still a bit like, happening. Transformers 4 trailer comes on, of course. How to Train Your Dragon 2. That was interesting. What else was there? There's something That's by the people who did the Matrix trilogy, and it has Channing Tatum, Mila Kunis, and it's called, like, Jupiter Arising, like that kind of thing. And then there's, of course, the Edge of Tom Cruise movie, which I didn't get a chance to, I forgot to mention it at my Spider-Man review. The armor shit that they wear, it kind of reminds me of Gears of War, which is, oh, Jesus Christ, and panning over there. Sorry, I realized my camera had been moving so much. Yeah, so, it reminded me of Gears of War, just the way how, you know, the costumes are, and the big guns and shit. I think that was it, right? I don't think there was another one. Yeah. I think that's all. Oh, Maleficent, of course. There's the Maleficent one, and... Oh, then... Speaking of kaijus and stuff, I went to Toys R Us and got myself a kaiju! Kaiju, bitches! Yeah, I got that. And then... And of course, because I am a girl, I went to the Mac store and got myself some Maleficent, you know, shit. So, because I am a lady. I know it's hard to believe. Anyway, go see Godzilla. Why? Ask. Because you just have to, just go see it. You'll enjoy it. I noticed there wasn't a lot of women in the audience. It seemed more like girls who were dragged there because of their boyfriend or their friend. And it seemed like a couple of girls here and there, like, are fans, kind of like me, like, going. But it was definitely, it was definitely more of a sausage fest than usual with other, like, nerd movies. But us ladies were showing up. We're there. But yeah, it was very bro-y. It was just a lot of big dudes there. It was a lot of big, like, yeah, see the Godzilla. It was like bro-y kind of guys that are kind of there. There was, like, the bro-y dudes, and then the nerds, and then me, and black guy, you know? Anyway, next week is X-Men, and the week after that is Maleficent, the week after that is Anime Next. So, yay! I'm gonna post this up, and then all the stuff, and watch Orphan Black. Yay! Alright. There's also this part I forgot to mention, when Bryan Cranston and Kick-Ass go in Japan and they're going to, like, their old home, you see something that he was working on, and it says Mothra on it. Forgot to mention that. Anyway, go see the movie.